A nurse is hired to care for a millionaire in a vegetative state. She performed various tasks, including bathing him and changing his clothes. One day, the millionaire's wife would do something that would surprise everyone. Before you listen, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. A nurse is hired to care for a millionaire in a vegetative state. She performed various tasks, including bathing him and changing his clothes. One day, the millionaire's wife would do something that would surprise everyone. Before you listen, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The sun had barely risen when Emily parked her compact car in front of the imposing mansion of the Albuquerque family. The young nurse took a deep breath, adjusted the badge on her spotless white uniform, and stepped out of the vehicle, carrying a small bag with her personal belongings. It was her first day working at the residence of the famous businessman Nathan Albuquerque, and she couldn't deny the butterflies in her stomach. The information she had received was scarce. The millionaire had suffered an accident months ago and had since been in a vegetative state, requiring intensive care 24 hours a day. Emily had been hired to join the team that would work in shifts, ensuring the patient received all the necessary attention. As she approached the main gate, Emily noticed the security cameras that seemed to follow her every move. Before she could even ring the doorbell, a metallic voice came through the intercom. "Please identify yourself." "Emily Silver, the new nurse," she replied, trying to sound confident. There was a moment of silence, followed by an electronic click. The gate began to open slowly, revealing a stone path that wound through a meticulously maintained garden. Emily followed the trail, observing the marble statues and ornate fountains that dotted the landscape. The grandeur of the place made her feel small and out of place. When she reached the main entrance, the door opened before she could knock. A tall, elegant woman with perfectly styled black hair and piercing eyes greeted her with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome, Miss Silver. I'm Victoria Albuquerque, Nathan's wife," she said, her voice as cold as her gaze. "Please, come in. I'll show you your accommodations and my husband's room." Emily nodded, following Victoria through the luxurious interior of the mansion. The clicking of Mrs. Albuquerque's heels echoed through the marble hallways, creating an even more tense atmosphere. As they walked, Victoria spoke without looking back. "I hope you're aware of the importance of your work here, Miss Silver. Nathan's condition is delicate. We demand absolute discretion and total dedication." "Yes, ma'am," Emily replied, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. "I'll do my best to care for Mr. Albuquerque." Victoria stopped abruptly in front of a door, turning to face Emily with a piercing look. "It's not just about doing your best, it's about giving your all, understood? My husband's life depends on it." Before Emily could respond, the door opened, revealing a tall, athletic man wearing a white lab coat over casual clothes. His smile was charming, but there was something in his eyes that made Emily instantly uncomfortable. "Ah, this must be our new nurse," he exclaimed, extending his hand. "Dr. Andrew Menezes, personal assistant and resident physician to Mr. Albuquerque." "Albuquerque, it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Silver. Emily Silver," she replied, shaking his hand briefly. Victoria interrupted the introduction with an impatient gesture. "Dr. Menezes, please show Miss Silver the procedures and Nathan's room. I have appointments to attend to." With that, she walked away, leaving Emily alone with Dr. Menezes. He smiled, again gesturing for Emily to enter the room. The environment was surprisingly cozy for an improvised hospital room. Large windows allowed natural light to flood in, illuminating the walls in soft tones and the state-of-the-art medical equipment. In the center, on an adjustable hospital bed, lay Nathan Albuquerque. Emily approached cautiously, observing the man who had once been one of the most powerful businessmen in the country. His body was still, his eyes closed, and a series of tubes and wires connected him to the machines around him. The sight was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, no matter how wealthy or influential someone might be. "As you can see, Mr. Albuquerque requires constant care," explained Dr. Menezes, his voice taking on a more professional tone. "His condition is stable but delicate. Any change, no matter how small, must be reported to me immediately." Emily nodded, absorbing every detail of the room and the patient. She noticed a clipboard at the foot of the bed and moved closer to examine it. "These are the daily records," the doctor continued. "You must note all procedures performed, medications administered, and any relevant observations. Accuracy is crucial." As Dr. Menezes explained the protocols and routines, Emily couldn't help but notice something strange in the records. There were subtle inconsistencies in the dosages of certain medications, variations that didn't seem to follow a logical pattern. She frowned, but decided to keep her observations to herself for now. "Any questions, Miss Silva?" asked Dr. Menezes. Interrupting her thoughts, Emily hesitated for a moment before responding, "No, doctor, everything is clear." He smiled, but there was something in his gaze that made her uneasy. "Great. Then I'll let you familiarize yourself with the environment. Your shift officially starts in 1 hour. If you need anything, just call." As soon as the doctor left, Emily found herself alone with Nathan Albuquerque. She approached the bed, observing the serene face of the patient. Despite his condition, there was a dignity in his features that time and illness had not erased. "Hello, Mr. Albuquerque," she said softly, adjusting the sheet over his chest. "I'm Emily, your new nurse. I promise I'll take good care of you." As she spoke, Emily thought she saw a slight movement in the patient's eyelids. It was so subtle, so quick, that she almost believed she had imagined it. But years of nursing experience had sharpened her instincts, and something told her there was more to this situation than met the eye. The following hours passed in a whirlwind of activity. Emily familiarized herself with the equipment, studied the medical chart in detail, and performed routine procedures with meticulous precision. At every step, she couldn't help but feel that she was being watched, not just by the discreetly installed security cameras in the corners of the room, but by invisible eyes that seemed to follow her every move. As night fell, casting shadows, through the mansion's hallways, Emily prepared for the shift change. It was then that she heard raised voices coming from the corridor. Silently approaching the door, she recognized the voices of Victoria and Dr. Menezes. "We can't keep this up for much longer," whispered Victoria, her voice filled with urgency. "The lawyers are getting impatient. We need to speed things up." "Calm down," replied Dr. Menezes in a soothing tone. "Everything is under control. Soon, we'll have what we want." Emily felt a shiver run down her spine. What exactly did they want, and why did they need to speed things up? The questions piled up in her mind, fueling a growing sense that there was much more at stake than Nathan Albuquerque's well-being. When the voices faded away, Emily returned to the patient's bedside. Looking at Nathan's motionless face, she made a silent promise. "I'll find out what's going on here, Mr. Albuquerque, and I'll protect you no matter the cost." Little did Emily know that this promise would lead her into a web of intrigue, secrets, and dangers that would test not only her skills as a nurse but also her courage and determination. The Albuquerque mansion held dark secrets, and she was about to become the key to unraveling them. Days turned into weeks, and Emily gradually adjusted to the routine at the Albuquerque mansion. Each morning brought with it a mix of anticipation and apprehension as she prepared for another shift by Nathan's side. The nurse developed the habit of always arriving a few minutes early, taking advantage of the mansion's silence to observe and reflect. On that particular morning, Emily noticed something different as she entered Nathan's room. The air felt heavier, charged with an invisible tension. She approached the bed, performing her usual check of the patient's vital signs. "Good morning, Mr. Albuquerque," she murmured, delicately adjusting the pillow. "I hope you had a good night." That's when it happened. A subtle, almost imperceptible movement of Nathan's fingers. Emily froze, her heart racing. She had noticed small movements before, but she had always attributed them to involuntary spasms. This time, however, there was something different, something intentional. "Mr. Albuquerque," she called softly, "can you hear me?" Silence. Emily watched intently, waiting for any sign. After a few seconds, she saw it again. A slight tremor in Nathan's right hand. Emily's mind began to whirl. If Nathan was conscious, even minimally, it changed everything. But why had no one noticed before? Or worse, what if someone had noticed and chosen to ignore it? Before she could explore this possibility further, the door to the room abruptly opened. Victoria Albuquerque entered, her cold gaze sweeping the room before settling on Emily. "Good morning, Miss Silver," she said, her voice as sharp as ice. "Any changes in my husband's condition?" Emily hesitated for a fraction of a second. Should she share her discovery? Something in her instinct warned her to be cautious. "Nothing significant, Mrs. Albuquerque," she replied, maintaining a professional tone. "Just the usual variations. In vital signs." Victoria arched an eyebrow, her piercing gaze as if trying to read the nurse's mind. "I see. Well, carry on with your work. Dr. Meneses will come by later for a full evaluation." As soon as Victoria left, Emily let out a breath. She hadn't realized she was holding. She looked at Nathan, wondering if she had made the right decision by withholding her observation. She decided she needed to investigate further before sharing her suspicions with anyone. The following hours were an exercise in patience and observation. Emily remained hypervigilant, attentive to every slight movement from Nathan. Occasionally she noticed that subtle tremor in his fingers, always when she spoke directly to him or mentioned something about his condition. In the middle of the afternoon, Dr. Meneses arrived for his daily visit. Emily watched intently as he examined Nathan and reviewed the medical records. "Any observations, Miss Silver?" he asked, his tone casual but his eyes alert. Emily hesitated, again. "Nothing out of the ordinary, doctor, although—" She paused, deciding to take a risk. "Sometimes I get the impression that I see small movements in Mr. Albuquerque's fingers, probably just reflexes, right?" Dr. Meneses stood still for a moment, his smile faltering almost imperceptibly. "Yes, of course," he replied, quickly regaining his composure. "Involuntary movements are common in patients in this condition. Nothing to worry about." But Emily noticed something in his eyes, a flicker of concern, fear, that disappeared as quickly as it appeared. After the doctor left, Emily decided she needed to be more proactive. If Nathan was truly conscious, she needed to find a way to communicate with him without raising suspicions. In the days that followed, Emily developed a subtle system. While performing routine care, she began asking Nathan simple questions, asking him to move his fingers once for yes and twice for no. "Mr. Albuquerque, are you comfortable?" 1 movement. "Are you feeling any pain?" 2 movements. Do you fully understand me?" 1 movement. Stronger this time. Emily's heart raced. There was no longer any doubt. Nathan was conscious and trapped in his own body. The question now was, why didn't anyone else seem to know, or worse, why would someone want to keep it a secret? Determined to unravel the mystery, Emily began paying even closer attention to the details around her. She noticed the frequent whispered visits from Victoria and Dr. Meneses, always when they thought no one was around. She observed the subtle changes in Nathan's medications, changes that weren't officially recorded. One night, while everyone was asleep, Emily decided to take a risk. She approached Nathan's bed and whispered, "Mr. Albuquerque, I know you're in there. I'm here to help. I'll figure out what's going on and get you out of this situation. Trust me." To her surprise and emotion, a solitary tear rolled down Nathan's face. At that moment, Emily knew there was no turning back. She was determined to unravel the plot unfolding in the Albuquerque mansion, no matter the risks. But as she delved deeper into the investigation, she began to realize that the secrets buried in that house were darker and more dangerous than she could have imagined. The following weeks were a game of cat and mouse. Emily meticulously catalogued every inconsistency she found, from variations in medications to the suspicious conversations she occasionally overheard. She kept a coded journal, hidden in her room, detailing her discoveries and suspicions. One day, while performing routine, cleaning in Nathan's room, Emily accidentally knocked over a flower vase. As she bent down to clean up the mess, she noticed something strange, a small crack in the baseboard almost invisible to the naked eye. Intrigued, she examined it more closely and realized it was a camouflaged opening. With her heart racing, Emily managed to open the secret compartment. Inside, she found a flash drive. Quickly, she tucked it into her pocket, promising herself she would find a way to examine its contents as soon as possible. That night, after her shift, Emily locked herself in her room, and plugged the flash drive into her personal laptop. What she found left her stunned. Documents detailing suspicious financial transactions, encrypted emails between Victoria and unknown individuals, and most shocking of all, a video file. With trembling hands, Emily opened the video. In it, she saw Nathan Albuquerque, days before his supposed accident, arguing heatedly with Victoria and Dr. Menezes. Nathan accused them of defrauding the company and threatened to expose them. The video ended abruptly, but it was enough evidence to suggest that Nathan's accident might not have been an accident after all. Emily felt the weight of the truth fall on her shoulders. She now possessed information that could not only save Nathan, but also expose a criminal scheme of unimaginable proportions. However, this discovery also put her in mortal danger. As the night wore on, Emily reflected on her next steps. She knew she needed to act with extreme caution. One wrong move could not only compromise Nathan's safety, but also put her own life at risk. With renewed determination, Emily made a silent promise to herself and to Nathan. She would unravel this plot, no matter the cost. The battle for truth and justice was just beginning, and Emily was ready to face whatever came her way. The days following the discovery of the flash drive were a test of nerves for Emily. Every step through the mansion's corridors, every interaction with Victoria or Dr. Menezes carried the weight of the secret she now held. The nurse felt like an actress on a dangerous stage, forced to maintain a facade of normalcy while her inner world churned with anxiety and determination. Emily intensified her silent communication with Nathan, using every private moment to reassure him and gather more information. Through a simple code of finger movements, she began piecing together a complex puzzle of events that led to Nathan's accident. One particularly tense morning, as she adjusted Nathan's IV, Emily heard footsteps approaching rapidly. She barely had time to compose herself when Victoria abruptly entered the room, closely followed by Dr. Menezes. "Miss Silver," Victoria began, her tone sharp, "we need to discuss some irregularities in your reports." Emily's heart raced, but she maintained her composure. "Irregularities, Mrs. Albuquerque? I don't understand. I've been meticulous with my records." Dr. Menezes intervened, his smile not reaching his eyes. "We've noticed some discrepancies in the recorded dosages. Nothing alarming, but we'd like to clarify." Emily felt Nathan's gaze on her, almost sensing his concern. She knew she was treading on dangerous ground. "Of course, Doctor. I'd be happy to review the records with you. Perhaps I made a transcription error." Victoria narrowed her eyes, clearly dissatisfied with Emily's calm response. "You see, Miss Silver, my husband's condition is extremely delicate. We can't afford any mistakes, no matter how small. I completely understand, ma'am. I assure you that Mr. Albuquerque's health is my top priority." The air in the room grew thick with unspoken tension. Emily could feel she was being tested, watched by eyes searching for the slightest sign of weakness or betrayal. After a moment that felt like an eternity, Victoria nodded curtly. "Very well. Dr. Menezes will review the protocols with you later. We don't want any more misunderstandings." As soon as the couple left, Emily let out a shaky sigh. She turned to Nathan, noticing a slight tremor in his fingers, his way of expressing concern. "It's okay," she whispered, adjusting the sheets. "I'll handle this. Trust me." That night, after her shift, Emily locked herself in her room, her mind racing furiously. She knew the net was closing in. Victoria and Dr. Menezes suspected something, and she needed to act fast. Reviewing the information on the flash drive, Emily began to devise a plan. Among the files, she found mentions of an offshore bank account, apparently used to siphon funds from Nathan's company. It was a crucial lead, but Emily knew she would need help to use it effectively. With her heart in her throat, she grabbed her personal phone, one she kept hidden from everyone in the mansion, and typed a message to an old college friend, now a private investigator. "Lucas, I need your help. It's urgent and confidential. Can we meet tomorrow?" The reply came almost instantly. "Of course, Em. Usual spot, 3 p.m.? Emily confirmed the meeting, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. She knew she was about to cross a line from which there would be no turning back. The next morning, Emily was more alert than ever. Every sound, every exchanged glance among the mansion staff seemed loaded with hidden meanings. She carried out her tasks with mechanical precision, her mind already on the afternoon meeting. When it was time for her break, Emily informed them that she needed to leave to take care of personal matters. She felt Victoria's inquisitive gaze on her, but remained firm. The cafe where she had arranged to meet Lucas was a discreet spot in the city centre. Emily arrived early, choosing a table at the back, away from curious ears. Lucas showed up promptly, his friendly face marked by lines of concern as he saw Emily's tense expression. "Em, what's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." Emily took a deep breath, organizing her thoughts. "Lucas, what I'm about to tell you needs to stay between us. I'm involved in something dangerous." In the following minutes, Emily unraveled a condensed version of the events at the Albuquerque mansion. Lucas's expression shifted from curiosity to shock and finally to determination. "My God, Em, this is huge. Do you have proof?" Emily nodded, showing him copies of the most important documents she had found on the flash drive. "I need your help to investigate this offshore account and any other suspicious activity linked to Victoria Albuquerque or Dr. Andrew Menezes." Lucas examined the documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This is going to take time, Em, and it's dangerous. Are you sure you want to go through with this?" "I have no choice, Lucas. Nathan's life is at stake, and who knows how many other people have been affected by this scheme." Lucas nodded gravely. "All right, I'll start investigating immediately. But Em, promise me you'll be careful. These people seem dangerous." Emily smiled sadly. "I know, but I can't back down now." They spent the next hour outlining a plan of action. Lucas would use his contacts to investigate the suspicious accounts and transactions, while Emily would continue gathering evidence inside the mansion. As they said their goodbyes, Lucas held Emily's arm. "Em, if something goes wrong, if you feel like you're in immediate danger, use this code word in a message to me. Gardenia. I'll understand that it's an emergency and will act immediately." Emily nodded, feeling the weight of the situation. As she walked back to the mansion, she couldn't help but feel that she had crossed a point of no return. The game had changed and the stakes couldn't be higher. Back at the mansion, Emily resumed her duties with renewed determination. She knew every moment was precious, every interaction an opportunity to gather more information. That night, while tending to Nathan, she noticed something different in his behavior. His movements, though still subtle, seemed stronger, more deliberate. "Mr. Albuquerque," she whispered, "are you feeling different? More present?" A firm movement of his finger indicated yes. Emily's heart raced. Could the changes in medication be having an unexpected effect? Was Nathan slowly regaining control of his body? She knew she had to be cautious. If Victoria and Dr. Menezes noticed any significant improvement in Nathan, they might take drastic measures. "I'll help you get out of this situation," Emily promised, her voice barely audible. "But I need you to keep pretending. For now, it's the only way to keep you safe." A gentle movement of Nathan's fingers indicated his understanding and agreement. As the night progressed, Emily reflected on the day's events. She had taken the first steps on a dangerous journey, one that could cost her everything. But looking at Nathan, seeing the silent struggle in his eyes, she knew she had no choice. The battle for the truth and for Nathan Albuquerque's life had only just begun, and Emily was determined to win, no matter the cost. Days turned into weeks, and Emily found herself immersed in an increasingly dangerous game of cat and mouse. Every shift at the Albuquerque mansion was a delicate dance between fulfilling her duties as a nurse and gathering evidence that could unravel the sinister plot surrounding Nathan. One morning, while performing Nathan's morning care, Emily noticed something that made her heart leap, an almost imperceptible movement of his lips, as if he were trying to speak. She leaned in closer, whispering, "Mr. Albuquerque, are you trying to tell me something?" Nathan's eyes locked onto hers with an intensity she had never seen before. Slowly, painfully, He formed a single word with his lips. Safe. Emily felt a surge of adrenaline course through her body. It was the first word Nathan had been able to communicate since the accident. She knew this changed everything. Safe? She repeated softly. Is there something important in a safe? A subtle movement of Nathan's fingers confirmed. Where is this safe? Emily asked, her brain working furiously to process this new information. Nathan moved his eyes toward the library adjacent to the room. Emily nodded, understanding. I'll find it, she promised. But I need to be careful. Victoria and Dr. Menezes are growing more suspicious. At that moment, as if summoned by Emily's thoughts, Victoria's voice echoed down the hallway. Emily quickly straightened up, adopting a professional demeanor as Nathan's wife entered the room. Good morning, Miss Silver, said Victoria, her tone as cold as ever. Any changes? Emily maintained her composure, responding with studied calm. Nothing significant, Mrs. Albuquerque. Mr. Albuquerque's vital signs remain stable. Victoria scanned the room with her eyes, as if searching for something out of place. Very well. Dr. Menezes will stop by later for a full evaluation. Make sure everything is in order. There was a veiled threat in those words that didn't escape Emily. As soon as Victoria left, she exchanged a meaningful glance with Nathan. The net was closing in, and they needed to act fast. That night, after her shift, Emily waited for the mansion to fall into the quiet of the night before making her move. With her heart pounding in her chest, she slipped silently into the library. The room was vast, with shelves stretching from floor to ceiling, filled with ancient books and art objects. Emily began methodically examining every corner, searching for any sign of a hidden safe. After nearly an hour of fruitless searching, she was about to give up when she noticed something odd on one of the shelves. One of the books seemed slightly out of alignment with the others. With trembling hands, Emily pulled the book, revealing a small electronic panel hidden behind it. Bingo, she whispered to herself. Now came the hardest part, figuring out the combination. Emily knew she only had a few attempts before the security system would trigger. She closed her eyes, trying to think like Nathan. Suddenly, an idea struck her. The founding date of Nathan's company. She had seen it mentioned in several documents around the mansion. With her heart in her throat, Emily entered the numbers. To her astonishment and relief, there was a soft click, and a panel in the wall slid open, revealing an embedded safe. Inside, Emily found a series of documents, an external hard drive, and a leather-bound journal. Quickly, she began photographing everything with her phone, knowing she didn't have time to examine the contents right there. As she photographed the last pages of the journal, Emily heard a sound that froze her blood. Footsteps approaching. The library. In a panic, she quickly put everything back in the safe, closed it, and rearranged the books on the shelf. She barely had time to hide behind an armchair when the door opened. Through the reflection in a mirror on the opposite wall, Emily saw Dr. Menezes enter, glancing suspiciously around. Strange, she heard him murmur. I could have sworn I heard something. The seconds dragged on like hours as the doctor wandered through the library. Emily hardly dared to breathe, aware that the slightest movement could betray her. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Dr. Menezes left, closing the door behind him. Emily waited a few more minutes before emerging from her hiding spot, her legs trembling with relief and adrenaline. She knew she had narrowly escaped. Silently returning to her room, Emily immediately sent the photos she had taken to Lucas, along with an urgent message. I found something big. Analyze it as quickly as possible. The situation is getting critical. Lying in her bed, unable to sleep, Emily reflected on the night's events. She knew she had crossed a dangerous line. If caught, the consequences would be disastrous, not only for her but also for Nathan. The next morning, Emily entered Nathan's room with a mix of exhaustion and renewed determination. As she approached the bed, she immediately noticed something was different. Nathan's eyes were more alert, focused on her with an intensity that surprised her. Good morning, Mr. Albuquerque, she said softly. I found the safe. Nathan's eyes widened slightly, and Emily saw his fingers move more noticeably than ever before. Be careful, Nathan managed to articulate, his voice no more than a whisper. Emily felt a wave of emotion wash over her. It was the first time she had heard Nathan's voice since she started working there. It confirmed her suspicions. He was slowly regaining control of his body. "Don't worry," she assured him, adjusting Nathan's pillow. "I'm being very careful. Soon we'll get you out of this situation." At that moment, as if to remind them of the constant danger, Victoria's voice echoed down the hallway, approaching rapidly. Emily quickly assumed a professional demeanor, but not before exchanging a meaningful glance with Nathan. The battle was far from over, but for the first time since she had begun this dangerous journey, Emily felt a genuine spark of hope. With the evidence from the safe and Nathan's gradual recovery, she knew they were one step closer to uncovering the truth and achieving justice. However, as Victoria entered the room, her cold gaze sweeping the area, Emily also knew that the days ahead would be the most dangerous yet. The final game was about to begin, and she would need all her courage and wit to emerge victorious. The days following the discovery of the safe were a tense mix of anticipation and fear for Emily. Every moment in the Albuquerque mansion seemed charged with imminent danger, as if the walls themselves held secrets ready to be revealed at any moment. Emily kept in constant contact with Lucas, exchanging coded messages about the progress of the investigation. The information found in the safe had opened a real Pandora's box. Documents detailing money laundering schemes, compromising emails, and, most shockingly, evidence that Nathan's accident had been meticulously planned. One particularly tense afternoon, while caring for Nathan, Emily noticed an unusual commotion in the mansion's hallways. Raised voices echoed from afar, and she could have sworn she heard Nathan's name mentioned more than once. "Something is happening," she whispered to Nathan, adjusting her pillow. "I need to find out what it is." Nathan's eyes, now more expressive than ever, conveyed a mix of concern and determination. He moved his lips slowly, forming a word. "Careful." Emily nodded, feeling the weight of the trust Nathan had placed in her. She knew that every misstep could be fatal not only to her investigation, but to Nathan's very life. Taking advantage of a moment when the hallway was empty, Emily slipped into Victoria's office, where voices seemed to be emanating from. Positioning herself strategically near the slightly open door, she managed to catch fragments of the heated conversation between Victoria and Dr. Menezes. "We can't wait any longer," Victoria's voice sounded urgent. "The lawyers are pushing. If we don't act now, the whole plan will fall apart." "Calm down," replied Dr. Menezes, his tone attempting to be soothing but betraying a note of nervousness. "We have everything under control. The new formula is almost ready. In a matter of days, Nathan will no longer be a problem." Emily's blood ran cold. New formula. Nathan will no longer be a problem. The implications were terrifying. "What about that nurse?" Victoria's voice cut through the air like a blade. "Silva. She's been asking too many questions lately." There was a tense pause before Dr. Menezes responded. "Leave her to me. If she becomes a problem, well, accidents happen, don't they?" Emily felt her heart race. She knew her position was more precarious than ever. Silently, she stepped away from the door, her mind working furiously to process what she had heard and plan her next steps. Back in Nathan's room, Emily found the patient more agitated than usual. His eyes scanned her face, searching for answers. "They're planning something," Emily whispered, leaning over to check Nathan's vitals, using the movement to mask her conversation. "They mentioned a new formula. We need to act fast." Nathan moved his fingers, forming a pattern Emily had learned to recognize as when. "Tonight," she replied, her determination growing. "I'll contact Lucas and ask for reinforcements. We can't wait any longer." That night, after her shift, Emily locked herself in her room and sent an urgent message to Lucas. "Gardenia. Repeat. Gardenia. We need to act now." The response came almost instantly. "Understood. Team on the way. Stay safe." With her heart pounding in her chest, Emily began gathering all the evidence she had collected over the past few weeks. She knew the next few hours would be crucial. Shortly after midnight, when the mansion was plunged into a deathly silence, Emily heard a soft noise coming from her window. It was Lucas, accompanied by two men she recognized as plainclothes police officers. "We don't have much time," Lucas whispered as he quietly entered the room. "The police are on their way with a warrant, but we need to make sure all the evidence is secure." Emily nodded, handing Lucas the flash drive containing all the information she had gathered. "We need to get to Nathan," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "I fear they might try something drastic when they realize they're cornered." The group moved silently through the mansion's hallways, the tension palpable in the air. As they approached Nathan's room, they heard raised voices coming from inside. "Hurry up, finish it now!" Victoria's voice sounded hysterical. Emily felt her blood run cold. Without a second thought, she burst through the door, closely followed by Lucas and the officers. The scene that unfolded before them was chaotic. Dr. Menezes was leaning over Nathan, a syringe in hand, while Victoria watched with a mix of anxiety and determination in her eyes. "Step away from him," Emily shouted, her voice carrying an authority she didn't know she possessed. What followed was a flurry of shouts, sudden movements, and the sound of handcuffs clicking shut. Within minutes, Victoria and Dr. Menezes were in custody, while paramedics rushed in to assess Nathan's condition. Emily ran to the side of the bed, her eyes meeting Nathan's. To her surprise and relief, she saw a glimmer of clarity and determination that hadn't been there before. "It's okay now," she whispered, gently holding his hand. "It's over." Nathan moved his lips, forming words that, though silent, Emily understood perfectly. "Thank you for believing in me." In the hours that followed, the Albuquerque mansion turned into a scene of police investigation. Evidence was collected, statements were taken, and the truth behind Nathan's accident began to come to light. Emily watched it all with a mix of exhaustion and relief. She knew the journey was far from over. There would be trials, testimonies, and a long road to recovery ahead for Nathan. But in that moment, seeing justice finally being served, she felt that all the danger and stress of the past few weeks had been worth it. As the sun rose, casting its first rays over the mansion, Emily found herself reflecting on how dramatically her life had changed in such a short time. What had started as a routine nursing job had turned into a battle for truth and justice. Looking at Nathan, who was now receiving proper medical care and showing clear signs of recovery, Emily knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. A chapter of healing, rebuilding, and perhaps something more that neither of them dared to name yet. The weeks following the dramatic night of Victoria and Dr. Menezes' arrest were a whirlwind of activity for Emily and Nathan. The Albuquerque mansion, once a setting of intrigue and dark secrets, now buzzed with the constant presence of police, lawyers, and journalists eager for details about the scandal that had shaken the business world. Emily, now recognized as the heroine who had unraveled the entire scheme, found herself at the center of a media storm. Her face graced the covers of magazines and newspapers, and interview requests poured in daily. Yet she remained focused on what truly mattered: Nathan's recovery. With the suspension of the drugs that had kept him in a vegetative state, Nathan made surprising progress every day. His speech, once limited to whispered words, became clearer and more fluent. His control over his movements improved steadily, and soon he was able to sit up in bed without assistance. One afternoon, while helping Nathan with his physical therapy exercises, Emily noticed a different sparkle in his eyes. "You know, Emily," Nathan began, his voice still hoarse from disuse but filled with emotion, "I never had the chance to properly thank you for what you did." Emily felt her cheeks flush. "I just did what was right, Mr. Albuquerque." Nathan smiled, taking her hand in his. "Please, call me Nathan. And you did much more than just what was right. You risked everything for me, for someone you barely knew." There was a moment of charged silence between them. Emily felt her heart race, aware that something fundamental had shifted in her relationship with Nathan. I couldn't have done otherwise," she finally replied, her voice soft. "From the very first day I felt there was something special about you, something worth fighting for." Nathan's smile widened, lighting up his face in a way Emily had never seen before. "You brought light to my darkness, Emily. And now that I can see clearly again, I realize you are even more extraordinary than I imagined." Weeks turned into months, and life at the Albuquerque mansion took on a new normal. The investigations continued, revealing the extent of the conspiracy orchestrated by Victoria and her accomplices. Nathan, with the help of Emily and a team of trusted lawyers, began the arduous process of regaining control of his business and repairing the damage caused by the fraudulent scheme. Emily, in turn, found herself at a professional crossroads. Job offers came from all directions: renowned hospitals, pharmaceutical companies, even proposals to write a book about her experience. Yet, she hesitated to make any decision that would take her away from Nathan. One evening, as they shared a quiet dinner on the mansion's terrace, Nathan broached the subject that had been hanging between them. "Emily, I've heard about the offers you've been receiving," he began, his tone careful. "You must be eager to resume your career now that all of this is over." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. "Actually, I'm not sure what I want to do now." Nathan watched her for a moment, his eyes filled with an emotion she couldn't quite decipher. "You know, I've been thinking. The company needs a complete overhaul, not just in business, but in how we treat people. I'm planning to create a foundation to help victims of corporate fraud and abuse. I'd like you to consider leading that project." Emily was speechless, surprised by the unexpected proposal. I don't know what to say, Nathan. It's an incredible offer, but I don't have experience managing foundations or... Nathan gently interrupted her, taking her hand. "You have something far more valuable than management experience, Emily. You have compassion, integrity, and incredible strength. These are the qualities I want leading this project." Tears began to form in Emily's eyes. "Nathan, Besides," he continued, his voice soft, "it would be a way for us to stay close, that is if you want to, of course." Emily's heart raced. She looked into Nathan's eyes and saw reflected in them the same whirlwind of emotions she was feeling. Months of mutual trust, of fighting side by side, had created a bond between them that went beyond words. "Yes," she finally replied, a smile lighting up her face. "Yes to everything." Nathan smiled back, and in that moment, under the starry sky, they both knew they were on the brink of a new chapter in their lives. A chapter of rebuilding, of hope, and above all of a love born from the most unlikely circumstances. In the months that followed, the Albuquerque Foundation for Corporate Justice and Ethics took shape. Emily threw herself into the project, bringing her unique perspective and her passion for helping others. Nathan, in turn, used his influence and resources to ensure the foundation had the greatest possible impact. Together, they not only rebuilt the Albuquerque empire on more ethical foundations, but also became a powerful force in the fight against corporate corruption. Their story of overcoming and triumphing over adversity inspired thousands, becoming a symbol of hope for many. Time passed, and with it came significant changes not only for Emily and Nathan, but for the entire business landscape of the country. The Albuquerque Foundation for Corporate Justice and Ethics, under Emily's dynamic leadership, had become a beacon of hope for victims of fraud and a feared watchdog for corrupt corporations. On a sunny spring morning, 2 years after the events that changed their lives, Emily found herself in her office at the foundation, reviewing the latest cases they had taken on. The phone rang, interrupting her concentration. "Emily, it's Nathan. Can you come to the mansion? I have something important to discuss." Nathan's voice sounded excited, but with a hint of nervousness that intrigued Emily. "Of course, I'll be there in half an hour." Arriving at the Albuquerque mansion, now a place of happy memories instead of the nightmares of the past, Emily was greeted by a visibly anxious Nathan. "Emily, I'm so glad you're here," he said, taking her hand and guiding her to the garden. "There's something I've been thinking about for a while now." Emily felt her heart race. Over the past 2 years, her relationship with Nathan had blossomed in ways she never thought possible. They were partners, not only in business and the foundation, but in life. Nathan led her to a gazebo decorated with fresh flowers, where a table was set for 2 with chilled champagne waiting. "Nathan, what is all this?" Emily asked, a smile forming on her lips. He took a deep breath, holding both of her hands in his. "Emily, These past few years have been the most extraordinary of my life. You not only saved me in the literal sense, but brought a purpose and joy I never knew were possible." Emily felt tears forming in her eyes, anticipating what was coming. Nathan continued, his voice choked with emotion. "I spent so much time trapped in darkness, unable to move or speak, but even in those darkest moments, your presence was like a light guiding my way back to life. And now, I can't imagine a single day without you by my side." Slowly he knelt down, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Emily Silver, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Tears now streamed freely down Emily's face. "Yes, Nathan, 1,000 times yes," she exclaimed, pulling him into a tight embrace. The ring, a delicate solitaire diamond, slid perfectly onto her finger, symbolizing not just their love, but the extraordinary journey that had brought them there. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of wedding preparations and media attention. The union of Nathan Albuquerque, the businessman who had risen from the ashes of a scandal, with Emily Silver, the brave nurse who had unraveled the conspiracy, was the talk of the town. However, true to their nature, the couple opted for an intimate ceremony held in the gardens of the Albuquerque mansion. Only close friends and family were invited, including Lucas, who had become a dear friend of the couple. On the wedding day, as Emily walked down the makeshift aisle between the garden roses, she reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her there. From a simple nurse to a respected figure in the world of business and philanthropy, her life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. Nathan, waiting for her at the altar, had tears in his eyes as he saw her approach. To him, Emily was not just his bride, but his guardian angel, his savior, and his partner in every sense. The vows they exchanged were deeply personal, recalling the moments of challenge they had faced together and the promises of a bright future they would build side by side. "Emily," Nathan began, his voice heavy with emotion, "when I was lost in the darkness, your voice was my anchor. Your courage gave me the strength to fight. I promise to spend the rest of my life repaying the love and dedication you have shown, me being not just your husband, but your partner in every way." Emily, with tears in her eyes, responded, "Nathan, you taught me the true meaning of resilience and hope. Together, we faced the impossible and emerged victorious. I promise to stand by your side through all the challenges to come, celebrating our victories and overcoming obstacles, always with love and mutual trust." The reception that followed was a celebration not just of Emily and Nathan's love, but also of the triumph of truth and justice. Friends and colleagues from the foundation raised their glasses to toast not only the couple, but also the positive impact their union had brought to so many lives. As the night wore on, Emily and Nathan found a moment of tranquility, stepping away briefly from the guests to admire the sunset in the mansion gardens. "Who would have thought," Emily reflected, leaning against Nathan's chest, "that the first day I entered this mansion as your nurse would lead us to this moment?" Nathan smiled, gently kissing the top of her head. "Maybe it was fate, my love. Or maybe it's proof that when two souls are destined to meet, not even the most unlikely circumstances can keep them apart." The years following Emily and Nathan's marriage were marked by a series of triumphs and challenges that tested and strengthened their bond even further. The Albuquerque Foundation for Justice and Corporate Ethics grew exponentially, becoming a respected and feared force in the business world. One autumn morning, 5 years after their wedding, Emily was in her office at the foundation when she received a call that would once again change the course of their lives. "Mrs. Albuquerque," the voice on the other end of the line was grave. "This is Dr. Mendez from Central Hospital. Your husband has been in a car accident. He's stable, but..." Emily's world seemed to freeze. Memories of the past, of the time when Nathan was in a vegetative state, flooded her mind. With her heart racing, she rushed to the hospital. Upon arriving there, she was met with a scene that, though concerning, was far from the nightmare she had feared. Nathan was conscious with a few cuts and bruises, but visibly relieved to see Emily. "My love," he said, reaching out his hand to her. "I'm sorry for scaring you. I'm okay, just a little banged up." Emily held his hand, tears of relief streaming down her face. "Oh, Nathan, when I got the call I thought..." "I know," he gently interrupted, But we're here together. In the days that followed, as Nathan recovered in the hospital, Emily deeply reflected on their lives and the path they had taken. The accident, though frightening, had served as a powerful reminder of life's fragility and the importance of cherishing every moment. A week after the accident, with Nathan back at the mansion to continue his recovery at home, the couple had a conversation that would once again change the course of their lives. "Emily," Nathan began, sitting on the porch as they watched the sunset. "This accident has made me think a lot about our life, our work, our future." Emily nodded, holding his hand. "I've been thinking a lot too, my love." Nathan continued, "We've accomplished so much with the foundation, helped so many people, but I feel there's more we can do. Something more personal." "What do you have in mind?" Emily asked, intrigued. Nathan hesitated for a moment before responding. "I was thinking, what if we expanded our family? What if we gave a child the chance to have the love and opportunities we have to offer?" Emily's heart raced. The idea of having children had come up in previous conversations, but it had always been postponed in favor of their work with the foundation. Now, however, the proposal resonated deeply within her. "Nathan," she replied, her voice choked with emotion, "I think it's a wonderful idea." The following months were an emotional roller coaster for the couple. After medical consultations and much reflection, they decided to pursue adoption. The process was long and sometimes frustrating, but Emily and Nathan faced each obstacle with the same determination that had brought them together years before. Finally, after nearly a year of waiting, came the news that would change their lives forever. A 3-year-old girl, Sophia, was waiting for a family. Her circumstances were difficult, orphaned by parents who had fallen victim to a corporate fraud scheme that had left them in ruin. When Emily and Nathan met Sophia for the first time at the orphanage, it was as if the world around them disappeared. The little girl, with big brown eyes and a shy smile, instantly won their hearts. "Hello, Sophia," Emily said softly, kneeling to meet the child at eye level. "I'm Emily and this is Nathan. We've been waiting so long to meet you." Sophia looked at them curiously before asking innocently, "Are you going to be my new parents?" Nathan, with tears in his eyes, replied, "If you want, sweetheart, we would love to be your family." The smile that lit up Sophia's face at that moment was the most beautiful Emily and Nathan had ever seen. The following months were an adjustment for everyone. The Albuquerque mansion, once a symbol of intrigue and later of new beginnings, now filled with the sound of children's laughter. Sophia brought a new light to their lives, reminding them daily of the transformative power of love and second chances. Emily and Nathan balanced their work at the foundation with their responsibilities as parents, creating an environment of love, security, and strong values for Sophia. They made it a point to teach their daughter about the importance of honesty, compassion, and standing up for what is right. One day, while playing in the garden, Sophia asked a question that deeply touched the hearts of her adoptive parents. "Mom, Dad, why did you choose to adopt me?" Emily and Nathan exchanged an emotional glance before Nathan replied, "Sophia, sweetheart, we didn't choose you. Destiny brought us together, just like destiny brought your mother and me together in a very special way years ago. Sometimes families are formed not by blood, but by love and the desire to make a difference in each other's lives," Emily added, hugging her daughter. "And you, my love, have made a huge difference in our lives. You've taught us a new kind of love, one we didn't even know we were capable of feeling." Sophia smiled, hugging her parents tightly. "I love you," she said simply. At that moment, under the late afternoon sun, Emily and Nathan felt that their circle of love and redemption was complete. From a story that began with betrayal and near tragedy, a family united by love, courage, and the desire to make the world a better place had been born. And so the Albuquerque mansion, once a stage for shadows and secrets, had become a true home, filled with love, hope, and promises of a bright future. The years passed quickly, and Sophia grew into a brilliant and compassionate young woman, a reflection of the love and values Emily and Nathan had cultivated in their home. Now 15 years old, Sophia was the pride of her parents and an inspiration to everyone who knew her. On a spring morning, the Albuquerque family gathered for breakfast, as was their custom. Nathan, now with streaks of grey at his temples that only accentuated his distinction, flipped through the newspaper while Emily prepared pancakes, the delicious aroma filling the kitchen. Sophia entered, her face lit up with an excited smile. "Mom, Dad, you won't believe it. I've been selected to represent the school at the National Youth Leadership Forum." Emily and Nathan exchanged proud glances. The forum was a prestigious event that brought together the most promising students in the country to discuss social and economic issues. "That's wonderful, sweetheart," exclaimed Emily, hugging her daughter. "What will your presentation be about?" Sophia hesitated for a moment, her face taking on a serious expression. "Actually, I wanted to talk about your story, about how you turned a tragedy into something positive with the foundation." Nathan put down the newspaper, surprised. "Our story? Are you sure, Sophia?" The young girl nodded with determination. "Yes, Dad. I think it's a story that needs to be told. It might inspire others to fight against injustices, no matter how difficult it seems." Emily and Nathan exchanged emotional glances. Although Sophia knew the general outline of how her parents had met, many details had been softened to protect her. "Sophia," Emily began gently, "if you really want to tell this story, I think it's time you knew the whole truth." In the hours that followed, Emily and Nathan opened their hearts, revealing to Sophia the darkest and most dramatic details of their past. They spoke about the conspiracy, Nathan's vegetative state, the threats Emily had faced, and the struggle to expose the truth. Sophia listened with a maturity that surprised her parents, her eyes filling with tears and admiration as the story unfolded. "Mom, Dad," she said when they finished, her voice choked with emotion, "I always knew you were special, but this is incredible. You are true heroes." Nathan smiled gently, taking his daughter's hand. "We're not heroes, sweetheart. We're just people who chose to do the right thing even when it was hard," Emily added. "And that's what we hope we've taught you, Sophia. The importance of fighting for what's right, helping others, and never losing hope, even in the darkest moments." In the days that followed, Sophia worked tirelessly on her presentation, consulting her parents to ensure every detail was correct. She was determined to tell the story not just as an account of past events, but as a message of hope and a call to action for her generation. When the day of the forum arrived, the auditorium was packed with students, educators, and community leaders. Emily and Nathan sat in the front rows, their hearts filled with pride and a hint of apprehension. Sophia took the stage, her confident posture masking the nervousness she felt. She took a deep breath and began. "Today, I want to share with you a story of courage, integrity, and the transformative power of love. A story that began in tragic circumstances, but became a beacon of hope and positive change. This is the story of my parents, Emily and Nathan Albuquerque." As Sophia recounted the events, the audience became increasingly captivated. She spoke about the conspiracy, Emily's struggle to uncover the truth, Nathan's miraculous recovery, and the creation of the foundation. But more than that, she spoke about the lessons she had learned from her parents, about integrity, perseverance, and the importance of fighting for what's right. "And that's why," Sophia concluded, her voice strong and emotional, "I believe that each of us has the power to make a difference. We don't need to wait for big moments or extraordinary circumstances. We can start now, in our communities, our schools, our families. Because, as my parents taught me, it's in the small daily acts of courage and compassion that we truly change the world." The silence that followed was quickly broken by a wave of applause. Emily and Nathan, with tears in their eyes, were the first to stand, followed by the rest of the audience in a standing ovation. In that moment, watching their daughter on stage, Emily and Nathan felt that their legacy was secure. Sophia was not just the fruit of their love, but the embodiment of everything they had fought for and believed in. As they embraced Sophia after the presentation, surrounded by people eager to congratulate them and learn more about their work, Emily whispered to Nathan, "Who would have thought that scared nurse entering the Albuquerque mansion all those years ago would lead us to this moment?" Nathan smiled, squeezing his wife's hand. It's as we always say, my love. Life has a surprising way of taking us exactly where we need to be. And so, the story of Emily and Nathan, now told through the eyes of their daughter, gained new life, inspiring a new generation to fight for a more just and compassionate world. The legacy of love, courage, and integrity they had built would continue to flourish, touching lives far beyond what they could have ever imagined. The impact of Sophia's presentation at the National Youth Leadership Forum exceeded Emily and Nathan's expectations. In the weeks that followed, the Albuquerque family story gained a new wave of national attention. Journalists, writers, and documentary producers began reaching out, eager to explore the family's extraordinary journey in greater depth. Initially hesitant to expose their private lives to public scrutiny again, Emily and Nathan realized this could be a unique opportunity to expand the reach of their message and the impact of their work at the foundation. After much family discussion, they decided to collaborate with renowned documentarian Camille Ferreira, known for her ethical and sensitive approach to complex topics. The project, titled Rebirth: The Albuquerque Saga, would be a 3-part documentary series exploring not only the family's dramatic past, but also their ongoing work and the impact they had on society. Filming began on a sunny summer morning. The Albuquerque mansion, once the setting for dark intrigues, now opened its doors to reveal a story of redemption and hope. Emily, seated in the garden for her first individual interview, reflected on how her life had changed. "When I first entered this mansion as a nurse," she began, her voice soft but firm, "I could never have imagined where this path would lead me. Every challenge, every moment of fear and doubt brought us here. And looking back, I wouldn't change a thing." Nathan, in his interview, became emotional as he recalled the moments when he was trapped in his own body. "What kept me fighting, besides Emily's constant presence, was the belief that I had a mission to fulfill, that my life, if given a second chance, would have to have a greater purpose." Sophia, now 16 years old and with an eloquence beyond her years, spoke about growing up knowing her parents' story. "From a young age, I learned that true heroism isn't about capes or superpowers, but about the daily choices we make to help others and fight for what's right." As filming progressed, the series began to explore the work of the Albuquerque Foundation. Camille and her team accompanied Emily and Nathan on visits to social projects, meetings with business and government leaders, and counseling sessions with victims of corporate fraud. One of the most powerful moments occurred during a visit to a rehabilitation center for former executives involved in fraudulent schemes. Nathan, speaking to a group of men and women seeking a second chance, shared his own journey of redemption. "We all make mistakes," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "But what defines our character isn't the mistakes we make, but how we choose to rise again and repair the damage we've caused." The series also took time to explore the personal challenges the family had faced over the years. Emily spoke openly about moments of doubt and fear, especially in the early years after the scandal. "There were nights when I would wake up in a panic, fearing that everything would be taken from us again," she confessed. "But then I would look at Nathan, at Sophia, and I knew we had built something stronger than any external threat." Nathan, in turn, discussed the challenges of rebuilding his life and reputation. "It wasn't easy. There were people who would never believe in my innocence, no matter how much we proved it. I learned to accept that we can't control others' opinions, only our own actions." As the documentary neared its conclusion, it focused on the legacy the Albuquerques were building. The camera followed Sophia in her volunteer work, showing how the new generation was carrying forward their parents' values. In the final episode, the family gathered for a joint reflection on their journey. "Looking back," Emily began, holding Nathan and Sophia's hands, "I see that our story is about much more than overcoming adversity. It's about the transformative power of love, truth, and persistence." Nathan nodded, adding, "Every chapter of our lives, even the darkest ones, brought us here. And here is exactly where we're meant to be." Sophia, with tears in her eyes, concluded, "What I've learned from my parents is that the true happy ending isn't a destination, but an ongoing journey, a journey of growth, love, and making a difference in the world. When the cameras finally turned off, the Albuquerque family shared an emotional embrace. They knew their story, now shared with the world, would continue to inspire and touch lives far beyond their immediate circle. In the months following the series' release, the Albuquerque Foundation saw a significant increase in donations and volunteers. More importantly, they received countless messages from people who, inspired by their story, found the courage to confront injustices in their own lives. Emily, Nathan, and Sophia continued their work, always guided by the belief that every act of kindness, every fight for justice, no matter how small, had the power to create waves of positive change in the world. And so, the saga of the Albuquerques, which began in tragedy and near destruction, became a beacon of hope and inspiration for future generations, proving that even in the darkest moments, love, courage, and integrity can triumph, lighting the way to a brighter and more just future. 5 years had passed since the release of the documentary series about the Albuquerque family. The impact of their story continued to reverberate, inspiring change on both personal and institutional levels across the country. The Albuquerque Foundation had expanded beyond national borders, establishing international partnerships and becoming a global voice in the fight against corporate corruption and the promotion of ethics in business. Emily, now 45, and Nathan, 55, found themselves in a new phase of their lives. Sophia, at 21 years old, was about to graduate from law school, determined to follow in her parents' footsteps in the fight for social justice. On a sunny autumn afternoon, the family gathered on the mansion's porch for a conversation that would once again change the course of their lives. "Mom, Dad," Sophia began, her face serious but determined, "I have something important to share." "With you?" Emily and Nathan exchanged curious glances, encouraging their daughter to continue. I've decided to run for a political office in the upcoming municipal elections," Sophia announced, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. The silence that followed was broken by the gentle sound of the wind in the garden trees. Emily was the first to speak. "Sophia, dear, this is unexpected, are you sure? Political life can be ruthless, especially for someone so young." Nathan, on the other hand, seemed thoughtful. "It's a brave decision, daughter, but do you understand the risks and challenges this might bring?" Sophia nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "I know, Dad, but I've learned from you that sometimes we need to step forward, even when it's scary. I believe I can make a difference, bring a fresh perspective to local politics." Emily and Nathan exchanged glances, a mix of pride and concern on their faces. They knew better than anyone the dangers and pitfalls of public life, but they also recognized the strength and integrity they had instilled in their daughter. "If this is what you truly want, Sophia," Nathan finally said, "you'll have our full support, but promise us you'll keep your integrity, no matter what happens." Sophia smiled, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "I promise, Dad. You've taught me well." In the months that followed, the Albuquerque mansion became the unofficial headquarters of Sophia's campaign. The young candidate surprised everyone with her eloquence, her passion for social issues, and her fresh approach to old problems. However, the campaign was not without its challenges. Opponents tried to use the family's dramatic past against Sophia, suggesting she was merely a product of the Albuquerque empire. But Sophia, with the strength and grace she had inherited from her parents, faced each accusation head-on, turning her family history into a symbol of resilience and positive change. Emily and Nathan, though worried, felt immense pride as they watched their daughter skillfully navigate the turbulent world of politics. They offered advice when asked, but for the most part, they let Sophia chart her own path. As election day approached, the tension in the Albuquerque mansion was palpable. On the night before the vote, the family gathered for an intimate dinner. "No matter the outcome tomorrow," Emily said, raising her glass in a toast, "we are incredibly proud of you, Sophia. You've already won just by having the courage to try." Nathan added, his voice choked with emotion, "You represent the best of us, daughter. The best of what we've fought to build all these years." Sophia moved, hugged her parents. "Everything I am, everything I've achieved, I owe to you. I promise to honor our legacy, no matter what happens." Election day dawned clear and crisp. The Albuquerque family showed up together to vote, a scene captured by eager photographers and reporters. The hours that followed were an emotional roller coaster as the results began to come in. Finally, late at night, the official announcement came. Sofia Albuquerque had been elected, becoming the youngest councilwoman in the city's history. The celebration at the campaign headquarters was pure joy. Sofia, radiant yet composed, delivered her victory speech, promising to work tirelessly for the good of all citizens. Later, back at the mansion, away from the public eye, the family shared an intimate moment of celebration and reflection. "It's incredible to think how far we've come," Emily reflected, looking at Nathan and Sofia. "From a nurse and a patient in a vegetative state to this." Nathan smiled, embracing his wife and daughter. "It's proof that life has greater plans for us than we can imagine. We just need the courage to move forward even in the darkest moments." Sofia, exhausted but happy, added, "And now it's my turn to continue our story, to turn everything I've learned from you into concrete action for our community." The years following Sofia's election were marked by significant changes not only for the Albuquerque family, but for the entire community. The young councilwoman quickly stood out for her innovative approach and tireless commitment to social justice. Sofia, now 25, had become a respected figure in local politics, known for her unwavering integrity and her ability to build bridges between traditionally opposing groups. Her work in the city council focused primarily on government transparency policies, ethical education programs for youth, and sustainable community development initiatives. Emily and Nathan, though officially stepping back from the daily management of the Albuquerque Foundation, remained active behind the scenes, offering guidance and support when needed. They had become mentors to a new generation of ethical leaders, sharing their experiences in lectures and workshops around the world. On a spring morning, 4 years after Sofia's election, the family gathered for a special breakfast. The air was filled with anticipation. As Sofia had mentioned, she had an important announcement to make. "Mom, Dad," Sofia began, her face a mix of nervousness and determination. "After much reflection and consultation with my advisors, I've decided to run for mayor in the upcoming elections." Emily and Nathan exchanged looks of surprise and pride. They had suspected Sofia had greater political ambitions, but the speed at which she was moving still amazed them. "Sofia," Nathan said, his voice filled with emotion, "are you sure? Being mayor is a huge responsibility, especially for someone so young." Sofia nodded, her eyes shining with the same determination her parents recognized from their own youth. "I know, Dad, but I feel it's the natural next step. There's so much we can do to improve our city, and I believe I have the vision and energy to lead that change." Emily smiled, taking her daughter's hand. "We're incredibly proud of you, sweetheart. But you know the campaign will be tough. Your opponents won't hesitate to use our history against you." "I know, Mom," Sofia replied confidently, "but our history is our strength, not our weakness. It's living proof that change is possible, that integrity can triumph over corruption." In the months that followed, the Albuquerque mansion once again became the center of intense political activity. Sofia's campaign for mayor attracted national attention, with many seeing her as a symbol of a new era in American politics. However, as Emily had predicted, the campaign also brought significant challenges. Opponents tried to revive old controversies about the family's past, questioning whether Sofia had enough experience to lead an entire city. It was during a televised debate that Sofia faced her toughest moment. One of her opponents, a seasoned politician, launched a particularly vicious attack. "Miss Albuquerque," he began, his tone condescending, "do you really believe that at 25 years old, with only 4 years of experience as a councilwoman, you're prepared to lead our city? Or are you just riding on the fame and fortune of your parents?" The auditorium fell into a tense silence. Emily and Nathan, watching from home, held their breath, anxious to see how their daughter would respond. Sofia paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and then replied with a calmness and maturity that surprised everyone. "Sir, I respect your experience and your years of public service. But let me be clear, I am not here because of my parents' fame and fortune. I am here because, as they taught me, when we see the chance to make a difference, we have a moral obligation to act." She paused, her eyes scanning the audience before continuing. "Yes, I am young, but I bring with me not only my 4 years as a councilwoman, but a lifetime of lessons on integrity, perseverance, and the true meaning of public service. My youth is not a weakness, it is a strength. I bring new ideas, energy, and a fresh perspective to old problems. And most importantly, I bring the conviction that our city deserves a better, fairer, and brighter future." The auditorium erupted in applause. Even her opponents seemed impressed by her eloquence and conviction. As the campaign progressed, it became clear that Sophia had struck a chord with the electorate. Her message of ethical renewal and positive change resonated with a population tired of traditional politics. On election night, the Albuquerque family gathered at the mansion, awaiting the results with a mix of anxiety and hope. When the final numbers were announced, the explosion of joy was deafening. Sophia had won, becoming the youngest mayor in the city's history. In her victory speech, Sophia honored her parents and her family's extraordinary journey. "This victory is not just mine," she said, emotional. "It is a triumph for everyone who believes in the power of truth, integrity, and perseverance. My parents taught me that no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always hope for a new dawn. As your mayor, I promise to work tirelessly to bring that new dawn to our city." Later, in an intimate moment with her parents, Sophia reflected on the magnitude of the moment. "Mom, Dad," she said, tears in her eyes, "all of this is thanks to you, to your courage, your love, the example you set for me." Emily and Nathan embraced their daughter, their hearts overflowing with pride and emotion. They knew Sophia's journey was just beginning, but they were confident she would face every challenge with the same grace, integrity, and determination that had always characterized the Albuquerque family. As the night wore on, the three of them looked out the mansion window, gazing at the city skyline now under Sophia's leadership. It was a new chapter not just for the family, but for the entire community, a chapter filled with promise, challenges, and the opportunity to create a truly better future for all. The first months of Sophia's administration as mayor were a whirlwind of activity, challenges, and small victories. The young leader faced the Herculean task of balancing the high expectations of her constituents with the complex realities of municipal governance. Emily and Nathan, while maintaining a respectful distance to avoid overshadowing their daughter's autonomy, remained pillars of support behind the scenes. Their past experiences proved invaluable to Sophia, who often sought their advice in moments of doubt. A year into her term, Sophia faced her first major crisis as mayor. A series of corruption allegations in public contracts came to light, involving high-ranking members of the City Hall, some of whom were holdovers from the previous administration. On a tense night, Sophia called an emergency family meeting at the Albuquerque mansion. "Mom, Dad," she began, her face pale with worry, "I'm facing an impossible dilemma. The evidence of corruption is clear, but exposing it publicly could completely destabilize the city's administration." Nathan leaned forward, his expression serious. "Sophia, always remember, the truth, no matter how painful, is always the right path." Emily nodded, adding, "Sweetheart, you were elected on a promise of transparency and integrity. This is the moment to honor that promise, no matter the political cost." Sophia took a deep breath, absorbing her parents' words. "You're right. I cannot compromise my values, no matter how difficult the path ahead may be." The next morning, Sophia called a press conference. Facing a room full of journalists, she made an announcement that shocked the city. "Citizens, I come to you today not only as your mayor, but as someone committed to truth and integrity. We have uncovered evidence of corruption within our administration, and I am here to assure you that every aspect of this situation will be investigated and those responsible will be brought to justice, no matter who they are." The weeks that followed were tumultuous. The city was in an uproar over the revelations, and Sophia faced fierce attacks from political opponents who accused her of inexperience and destabilizing the administration. However, As the investigations progressed and the extent of the corruption became clear, public opinion began to shift. Sophia's courage and transparency were recognized and praised by citizens and political analysts alike. Amid the crisis, an unexpected event brought a new perspective to the Albuquerque family. During a visit to a community center in an underserved neighborhood, Sophia met Lucas, a 17-year-old who was leading an environmental education project. Impressed by Lucas's passion and eloquence, Sophia invited him to participate in a mentorship program at the city hall. What began as a gesture of support for a promising young man soon turned into something deeper. Lucas, an orphan raised by his grandmother, brought a new energy and perspective to the Albuquerque family. His story of overcoming adversity and his commitment to social change resonated deeply with the family. One evening, after a dinner at the mansion where Lucas had been invited, Emily and Nathan had an intimate conversation with Sophia. "Sweetheart," Emily began, a gentle smile on her face, "we've noticed how close you and Lucas have become. He's an extraordinary young man." Sophia blushed slightly. "He's amazing, isn't he? His dedication, his vision for the city, it's inspiring." Nathan, with a twinkle in his eye, added, "You know, he reminds me a lot of your mother when I first met her. The same determination, the same passion for making a difference." Sophia looked at her parents, a mix of emotions on her face. I think I'm falling in love with him, but I'm scared. What if this complicates things? What if people don't understand?" Emily took her daughter's hand. "Love, Sophia, is the most powerful force there is. It was love that saved us, that built our family. Don't be afraid of it." In the months that followed, the relationship between Sophia and Lucas blossomed, bringing a new dynamic to the Albuquerque family. Lucas, with his unique perspective and commitment to social justice, fit perfectly into the family's legacy. As Sophia's term as mayor progressed, she faced challenges with a combination of courage, integrity, and compassion that had become the hallmark of the Albuquerques. Her innovative policies in education, sustainability, and community development began to show tangible results, transforming the city in ways few had believed possible. On a sunny afternoon, 2 years into her term, Sophia gathered her family, Emily, Nathan, and now Lucas, for a picnic in the mansion's garden. "You know," she said, looking affectionately at the people she loved most, "sometimes I'm still amazed by the path our lives have taken, from a nearly devastating tragedy to this. A united family, a city in transformation, a future full of possibilities." Nathan smiled, embracing Emily. "It's a testament to the power of love, truth, and perseverance. Our story, Sophia, is proof that no matter how dark the night may seem, there is always hope for a new dawn." Emily added, her eyes shining with emotion. "And now with you and Lucas, we are witnessing the beginning of a new chapter in this story, a chapter that promises to be as extraordinary as the previous ones." Lucas, holding Sophia's hand, spoke with conviction. "And it is a story that we will continue to write together, not just for ourselves, but for the entire community." As the sun set on the horizon, casting a golden glow over the Albuquerque mansion, the family looked to the future with renewed hope and determination. They knew there would be more challenges ahead, more battles to be fought for justice and ethics. But together, united by love, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to the common good, they were ready to face any obstacle. The saga of the Albuquerques, a story of redemption, love, and triumph over adversity, continued to inspire and transform lives, proving that even from the darkest circumstances, a legacy of light and hope could emerge. The years passed, and the city flourished. Under the leadership of Sophia Albuquerque, her tenure as mayor was marked by a series of progressive reforms and innovative initiatives that transformed the quality of life for its citizens. Government transparency, investment in education and social programs, and a focus on environmental sustainability became a model for other cities across the country. Meanwhile, the relationship between Sophia and Lucas matured and grew stronger. They married in an intimate ceremony in the gardens of the Albuquerque mansion, with Emily and Nathan beaming with pride as they watched their daughter begin a new chapter in her life. Now, 5 years into her term as mayor, Sophia faced a new crossroads in her political career. The state governor had announced that he would not seek re-election, and many looked to Sophia as the natural candidate to take on the role. On an autumn evening, the Albuquerque family, now including Lucas, gathered in the mansion's library for a crucial conversation. "I've received the official invitation from the party to run for governor," Sophia announced, her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. "It's an incredible opportunity to expand the work we started here, to make changes on an even larger scale." Lucas, sitting beside her, squeezed her hand in support. "You would be an amazing governor, my love. But it's a huge decision." Emily and Nathan exchanged glances, recognizing the weight of the moment. Nathan was the first to speak. "Sophia, when you decided to enter politics, we knew this day would come. You've built something extraordinary here in the city, but perhaps it's time to take your vision to a bigger stage." Emily added, her voice soft but firm. "Darling, you have repeatedly proven your ability to lead with integrity and compassion. If you feel this is the next step, know that you have our full support." Sophia looked at her family, feeling the weight of the decision. "It's scary to think about leaving the work we started here, but at the same time I think about all the lives we could impact across the state." Lucas smiled, his gaze full of love and admiration. "Sophia, you transformed this city. I can only imagine what you could do with an entire state under your leadership." After a long discussion weighing the pros and cons, Sophia reached a decision. With her family's blessing, she would announce her candidacy for governor the following morning. The months that followed were a roller coaster of emotions and challenges. The campaign for governor was vastly different from the municipal campaign. Sophia faced fierce opposition from established politicians who saw her as a threat to the status quo. During a particularly heated televised debate, one of her opponents attacked her harshly. "Miss Albuquerque, you may have had some success in a single city, but governing an entire state is a completely different matter. How can you assure voters that your inexperience won't lead the state into chaos?" Sophia, maintaining the calm that had become her trademark, responded, "Sir, true experience is not measured solely in years, but in results and vision. In 5 years, we transformed our city in ways many thought impossible. We brought transparency, innovation, and real hope to our citizens. Imagine what we could do with that same dedication and integrity applied to an entire state. My inexperience, as you call it, is actually a strength. It's the ability to see old problems with fresh eyes and find solutions that others may have overlooked." Her response resonated with voters, many of whom were tired of traditional politics and yearned for real change. As the campaign progressed, the Albuquerque family came together like never before. Emily and Nathan, despite their advanced age, actively participated, sharing their experiences and offering moral support. Lucas became Sophia's pillar, balancing his own work with unwavering support for his wife's campaign. On election night, the Albuquerque mansion was filled with supporters, volunteers, and journalists. The tension was palpable as the results began to come in. When the announcement was finally made, the explosion of joy was deafening. Sophia Albuquerque had been elected governor, becoming the youngest person to hold the office in the state's history. In her victory speech, Sophia honored her journey and the people who made it possible. "This victory is not just mine," she said, emotional. "It is a victory for everyone who believes in the power of integrity, compassion, and positive change. It is a victory for my parents, Emily and Nathan, who taught me the true meaning of courage and perseverance. For my husband, Lucas, whose strength and love have sustained me every step of this journey, and for every citizen who dared to dream of a better future for our state." Later, in an intimate moment with her family, Sophia reflected on the extraordinary path that had brought them there. "I think about how it all began," she said, looking at her parents with tearful eyes. "With a brave nurse and a patient, everyone believed was lost, and now look how far we've come." Emily smiled, embracing her daughter. "It's proof that love, truth, and determination can overcome any obstacle," Nathan added, his voice full of emotion. "And that the most important legacy we can leave is to inspire others to fight for what is right. Lucas, holding Sophia's hand, concluded, "And now, my love, you have the chance to continue that legacy on an even greater scale." As the night wore on, the Albuquerque family looked to the future with a mix of hope and determination. They knew the challenges ahead would be immense, but they were united in their commitment to making a difference. The early years of Sophia's term as governor were marked by a mix of triumphs and challenges. She brought to the state government the same innovative and ethical approach that had transformed her hometown, but the scale and complexity of the problems at the state level were of a completely different magnitude. Sophia faced resistance from traditional politicians and entrenched interest groups, but her determination and integrity began to win admirers even among her fiercest critics. Her policies on transparency, investment in education, and sustainable development programs began to show tangible results across the state. Meanwhile, the Albuquerque family dynamic continued to evolve. Emily and Nathan, now in their 70s, had become respected figures not only in the United States, but internationally, often invited to speak on business ethics and trauma recovery. They divided their time between supporting Sophia in her role as governor and mentoring the next generation of leaders through the Albuquerque Foundation. Lucas, in turn, had become a force in his own right. He expanded his environmental education project into a statewide program, working closely with the government, but maintaining his independence to ensure he could continue to be a critical voice when needed. It was during Sophia's third year in Seoul office that the family faced a new challenge. During a routine checkup, Nathan was diagnosed with a heart condition that required immediate surgery. The news shook the family. Sophia, torn between her responsibilities as governor and her desire to be by her father's side, faced one of the most difficult periods of her life. On the eve of the surgery, the family gathered at the hospital. The room was filled with a quiet tension, broken only by the constant beeping of heart monitors. "You all look so serious," Nathan joked, trying to lighten the mood. "I've faced worse, remember?" Emily, holding her husband's hand, smiled through her tears. "Yes, my love. And we will overcome this together, as we always have." Sophia, sitting on the other side of the bed, struggled to maintain her composure. "Dad, I don't know what I'd do without you. You've been my rock, my guide." Nathan gently interrupted. "Sophia, my dear, you are stronger than you think. All I did was show you the way. You walked it on your own." Lucas, standing beside Sophia, added, "Nathan, you didn't just guide Sophia, but all of us. Your example of courage and integrity has shaped this family and, through it, impacted countless lives." The conversation continued late into the night, with the family sharing memories, hopes, and words of love. It was as if, faced with the uncertainty of tomorrow, they wanted to soak up every precious moment together. The next morning, before being taken into surgery, Nathan made one final request. "Promise me, Sophia," he said, his voice weak but determined, "that no matter what happens, you will keep fighting for what's right. That the legacy we built together will live on through you." Sophia, tears in her eyes, nodded. "I promise, Dad, always." The hours that followed were the longest the family had ever experienced. Sophia, unable to focus on anything else, cancelled all official commitments, determined to be present for her family during this critical moment. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the surgeon appeared with a tired smile. "The surgery was a success," he announced. "Mr. Albuquerque is a fighter." The relief that flooded the room was palpable. Emily, Sophia, and Lucas embraced, tears of joy streaming freely. In the days that followed, as Nathan recovered, the family reflected on how this experience had affected them. Sophia, in particular, felt a profound shift in her perspective. "You know," she said to Lucas one evening as they gazed at the stars from the hospital balcony, "this experience made me realize something important. We've been doing good work in government, but there's more to be done, more lives to touch, more changes to implement." Lucas looked at her curiously. "What do you have in mind?" Sophia took a deep breath before responding. "I'm thinking of running for president in the next election." The silence that followed was charged with emotion. Lucas, after a moment of reflection, smiled and squeezed his wife's hand. "If anyone can bring the change our country needs, it's you, my love." In the weeks that followed, as Nathan recovered and returned home, Sophia shared her decision with the rest of the family. The reaction was unanimous support, though tempered, with the natural caution that came from their collective experience. "Sweetheart," Emily said, her voice filled with pride and concern, "the presidency is an immense challenge, but if there's anyone who can face it with grace and integrity, it's you." Nathan, still recovering but with a renewed spark in his eyes, added, "Sophia, when you were born, we could never have imagined the extraordinary journey that awaited us. You didn't just exceed our expectations, you redefined them entirely. Go forward, my dear. Show the country what it means to lead with love, courage, and integrity." As the Albuquerque family prepared for this new chapter in their saga, they knew the challenges ahead would be the greatest they had ever faced, but they were united in their determination to continue their legacy of positive change and social justice. Sophia, looking at her family, her parents who had overcome the impossible, her husband who was her partner in every sense, and the legacy of love and integrity they had built together, felt a wave of gratitude and determination. "Together," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "we can truly make a difference, not just for our family or our state, but for the entire country." And so, with the unwavering support of her family and driven by a deep sense of purpose, Sophia Albuquerque prepared to take the next step in her extraordinary journey, a journey that promised not only to transform her own life, but potentially the future of an entire nation. The years following Sophia's decision to run for president were a whirlwind of preparation, strategy, and hope. The Albuquerque family, now a nationally recognized political and social force, knew that the presidential campaign would be the greatest challenge of their lives. Nathan and Emily, though no longer possessing the same physical energy as in previous years, remained the pillars of support and wisdom for Sophia. Their life experiences, the fight against the conspiracy that had nearly destroyed Nathan, the rebuilding of his life and career, and their tireless work at the foundation, provided valuable insights for the presidential campaign. Lucas, with his expertise in sustainable development and education, became a crucial strategist on Sophia's campaign team. Together, they developed a plan that went far beyond traditional political promises, focusing on real social transformation. The first major test came during the official launch of her candidacy. The event, held at a large convention center, was packed with journalists, supporters, and critics, eager to see what the young leader had to say. Sophia took the stage wearing a navy blue suit, her posture reflecting the strength and determination that defined her. When she began to speak, the audience fell silent. "Americans," she began, her voice clear and resonant, "we are at a crucial moment in our history. I am not here to make empty promises or repeat the same speeches we've heard for decades. I am here to propose a real transformation. A transformation based on three fundamental pillars: education, ethics, and hope." She continued, detailing an ambitious plan that included profound educational reforms, systematic efforts to combat corruption, and massive investments in sustainable development and social inclusion. The reactions were immediate and polarized. Some hailed her as the nation's savior, while others criticized her as inexperienced and too idealistic, but no one could deny the impact of her words. In the following months, Sophia's campaign traveled across the country. Unlike traditional campaigns, she didn't just give speeches. She visited communities, listened to real stories, and incorporated those experiences into her proposals. A defining moment came during a visit to a riverside community in the Amazon. After hearing accounts of environmental devastation and social neglect, Sophia delivered an impromptu speech that touched the hearts of everyone present. "I did not come here as a candidate seeking your votes," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I came as someone committed to transforming your reality. Each of you deserves dignity, opportunity, and respect." Lucas, by her side, documented every moment, aware that they were building more than a campaign. They were building a movement. However, the campaign was not without its challenges. Traditional political groups began launching increasingly aggressive attacks. They tried to discredit her, resurrecting old controversies about her family and her political trajectory. In one of the most tense presidential debates, one of her opponents attempted to undermine her. "Miss Albuquerque, do you think you can govern a country with your family history, with a past of corporate scandal?" Sophia, without hesitation, responded, "My family history is exactly what qualifies me. I learned firsthand what it means to recover from a fall, to transform tragedy into opportunity. I did not come from a sheltered political background. I came from a journey of rebuilding and hope." Her response resonated nationally, earning the respect of millions who saw in her not just a candidate, but a symbol of renewal. Nathan, watching the debate at home with Emily, couldn't hold back his tears. "Look at her, Emily," he said, squeezing his wife's hand. "Our daughter is about to change the history of the country." Emily smiled, her eyes filled with pride. She was always destined for something great. From that first day in the hospital when I fought for her life, I always knew she would be special. As election day approached, the tension was palpable. Polls showed a tight race with Sophia slightly ahead, but with a margin that could easily be reversed. On the eve of the election, the Albuquerque family gathered at the mansion, as they had so many times over the years. The weight of the moment was undeniable. "No matter what happens tomorrow," Sophia said, looking at her family, "I am grateful for every moment, for every lesson that brought me here." Nathan, his voice choked with emotion, replied, "Daughter, you have already won. Not by the election result, but by everything you represent, by the hope you've brought back to millions of Americans." Lucas hugged Sophia, whispering words of love and support. Emily, watching her family, felt they were on the brink of something truly transformative. No matter the election outcome, they had proven that love, integrity, and determination can truly change the world. Night fell over the Albuquerque mansion, heavy with anticipation. Tomorrow would bring a decision that could change the fate of an entire nation. Election night was a moment of national tension. The polls closed, and the results began to come in, with the country literally standing still to follow every update. At Sophia's campaign headquarters, the atmosphere was a mix of restrained hope and nervousness. Lucas held his wife's hand, while Emily and Nathan watched from home, equally tense. The early counts showed an extremely close race. Sophia and her main opponent were technically tied, with a difference of less than half a percentage point. Hours passed. The tension was palpable across the country. Families gathered in front of televisions, crowded bars, public squares, all waiting for the final result. Close to midnight, the numbers began to settle. Sophia slowly started to gain a small lead. Minutes felt like hours. Finally, around 1 in the morning, the confirmation came. Sophia Albuquerque had been elected President of the United States. The scene at the campaign headquarters was pure emotion, tears, hugs, shouts of joy. Sophia, initially stunned, was overcome by a wave of responsibility and hope. When she took the stage for her victory speech, silence fell instantly. The entire country was listening. "Americans," she began, her voice choked with emotion, "today is not about my personal victory. It's about the victory of hope, of integrity, of the possibility of a different future for our nation." Her speech was a call for unity, for rebuilding, for hope. She spoke about the challenges ahead, but also about the strength of the American people, about the ability to overcome adversity. At the Albuquerque mansion, Emily and Nathan watched, moved. Nathan, with tears in his eyes, held his wife's hand. "Look at her, Emily," he said. "Our daughter is going to lead the country." Emily smiled, squeezing her husband's hand. She was always destined for something great. In the days following the election, the country experienced a mix of anticipation and hope. Sophia immediately began assembling her government team, prioritizing young talents, technical experts, and individuals committed to ethics and transparency. Lucas was invited to lead a new ministry dedicated to sustainability and social development, a position that would allow him to continue his transformative work on a national scale. Sophia's inauguration was a historic event. Thousands of people gathered in Washington, D.C., representing all regions and social classes of the country. Her inaugural speech was a milestone, promising a new era for the United States. "I did not come to divide," she declared. "I came to unite. I did not come to maintain privileges. I came to create opportunities. I did not come to preserve the status quo. I came to transform it." In the first months of her administration, Sofia implemented a series of bold reforms, combating corruption, massive investments in education, social inclusion programs, and an ambitious sustainable development plan marked the beginning of her presidency. Challenges were not lacking. Traditional political groups resisted the changes. The media sometimes supported her, sometimes criticized her, but Sofia remained steadfast, always guided by the values she had learned from her family. During a family meeting at the presidential mansion, Nathan offered a final piece of advice. "Sofia, always remember, power is not in holding a position. Power is in using that position to make a difference in people's lives." Sofia smiled, embracing her father. "I learned that from you and Mom. Every decision I make, I think about how we can transform the reality of millions of Americans." Emily, watching the scene, felt an indescribable emotion. From the nurse who had fought for Nathan's life decades ago to the mother of a president who promised to transform the country, her journey seemed like an impossible dream come true. Lucas, always by Sofia's side, added, "Together we can truly build the country we've always dreamed of, a country of opportunities, justice, and hope." Night fell over Washington, D.C., and with it came the hope of a new era for the United States. The saga of the Albuquerques, which had begun in tragedy and near destruction, had transformed into a beacon of possibilities, proving that love, integrity, and determination can truly change the world.